Let yourself just have this moment so that you can do whatever you need to do to start to tune in. Maybe let yourself have a few deep breaths, putting in just a little bit of effort to make this strong connection between your body and your breath and how you feel. Noticing how that breath feels in the physical body, how it feels in your thoughts and emotions. Hello, Max. Welcome. And just notice if anything starts to bubble up. Notice what's top of mind for you today. If there's any concerns, issues, worries. And maybe as an intention today, this is always just an offering, so take it or leave it, make it your own if you want. But as an offering for an intention, considering what is most top of mind for you, whatever issue or concern or worry is most top of mind, asking yourself the question of, what does this have to teach me? Or what can I learn from this? An important reminder that circles around and around, because I think it's probably one of the more challenging pieces of just going through this flow of life, is to let go. And so letting this issue, this concern, this worry bubble up, maybe starting to recognize that there might be something to learn or to take away from this, and then letting the rest go. It doesn't mean that we're ignoring it, right? There still might be action to take. There might be still things to do regarding that concern or that whatever is most top of mind. But just trusting that you're going to go through that process. Everything is temporary, and we can let it go and take that wisdom from it. Let's take about 5 more quiet breaths. And see if you can allow your body to become a little more still. Notice if there's any fidgeting, movement, becoming conscious of that and coming really deeply into your center, into that stillness within. If it helps, bring a hand to your belly and start to deepen your breath just a little bit. Equal inhale to exhale. Feel the belly press into the hand, breathing in. And feel the belly button drawing towards your spine gently as you breathe out. Nothing forceful, but just deepening the breath a little bit, finding a balance between inhale and exhale. Make a little note to yourself here of what it feels like to be connected to your breath, and a special intention to stay connected to this as you move through this practice today. I'm going to offer some new postures, or maybe a new challenge. Maybe you've done it before, but it still is something that's not quite part of the regular practice. And just approaching that with this deep breath, calmness. There's no desired outcome here. We're just doing our best. And just keep coming back to that anchor of your breath. You let your hands come back down to the sides. We'll do the 6 movements of the spine. Let's breathe in, reach your arms overhead. And then exhale right down through center. We're going to bring the hands to the knees and round the spine back like a cat shape. Then inhale and reverse that movement. Chest comes forward. You can lean in a little bit, lift up the chest and chin. Exhale, round it out, chin to chest. Do a couple more cycles, just finding your own connection, breath to movement. A seated cat and cow. Well, these are the first two movements of the spine. And these first movements also give you a good chance to just see what's going on in the body, if there's anything that needs some special attention today. When you complete this cow shape with the chest forward, chin up, come back to neutral spine, and then sweep your arms up and overhead, and then we'll move into a gentle twist, bringing the hand down to the knee, either same knee or opposite knee, depending how far you feel comfortable twisting. Other hand behind as a support, and taking a couple of breaths, lifting up and rotating around that center line. The second two movements of the spine are the rotations left and right. Unwind the spine, reach the arms overhead, and twist other way. Exhale. Breathing in. Maybe the gaze turns back, deepening the twist. Allow the jaw and chin to be relaxed. You don't need to strain or force anything. Anchor into the breath. Simple twist. And unwind, come back through center, and we'll go into the next two movements, the side bending. Keeping left hand down, reach up and over. Keeping your sits bones anchored into your mat, and take a few breaths here, articulating the side bend. Breathing into your ribs, maybe stretching a little further. You can kind of press up through the ribs as you reach over, so that it's not just hinging down from the hips, but you get that nice arch all the way through the spine. And to come out of the pose, bend that elbow, come back to center, and switch sides. Breathing in, lengthen it up, and start to reach up and over. Find a comfortable place for your gaze, but steady the gaze, right? Finding that stillness to rest in a pose. Anchor into your breath. You might draw the thumb back a little bit more. If you feel like you're curling in, you might be able to open that chest a little more. And bend the elbow, come back through center. Take a moment right in the middle, fingertips out to the sides like the slope of a mountain, the crown of the head like the top of the mountain, the sits bones like the part of the mountain below the earth. Anchor deeply. Bring your attention back to your belly as you take your next couple of breaths, moving that breath all the way up and down the spine, all through the body, every direction you could imagine, the breath filling you up. Front, back, side, all around. And we'll take some gentle movement just through the neck here. You can let your chin drop down towards the chest. Trace along the collarbone, side to side, half circles. Always the option to hold in these movements. If you find in the area that is a little sticky or want some extra breath or love, just holding it there, breathing into it. Really try to drop the need to rush. You've already dedicated this time, so there's no rush from pose to pose. And if you need to spend a little more time in any one position, by all means, take that time. Eventually coming back down through the center. And bring the hands behind the head and interlace the fingers. Press your head back into your hands as you lift up the chest, lift up the gaze gently, elbows draw back, feeling your core engage slightly. Gentle seated back bend. Breathe here. Hands press into head, head into hands. And release. Let's come over the shins and come into a tabletop. This is your normal alignment here. Wrists and shoulders, knees and hips. And then drawing your belly button towards the spine, just feeling a nice straight spine that extends through the tailbone and the crown of the head. And shoot your right leg back, hovering the toes off the mat. Lift your left arm, thumb pointed up. Breathe and hold in this extension. Lower down, switch sides, left leg shoots back. So now it's not just tailbone to crown, but it's heel to crown. And then right arm lifts, so heel to fingertips. Find that stillness as you hold the pose. And lower it down, switch sides. See if you can lift hand and foot together. Exhale, lower. Switch, left arm, right foot. Lower. First side again, right foot, left hand. Now hold it here again. Bend the knee, reach back for your toes. If you found those toes, start to open up the left shoulder. Gently kick into the hand. Press into your standing arm to lift through the chest. You might be able to gaze forward as you breathe in this back bend. And release. Switch sides, left leg, right arm. Press into the standing arm, bend the knee, reach back. Maybe you find your toes, maybe you don't. Do the best that you can. Slowly adding on, you might be able to look forward, kick into the hand a little more. Again, no force. Go to the point where you can still breathe with a sense of calmness. Right? You want to push the edge, but not go to the part where you're straining. Release. Come back into your tabletop. Wag your tail a little side to side. You can let the neck release. Organic movement. And anchoring into your breath. Lower down onto forearms. You're going to rest on the elbows and hold the head in your hands, covering the forehead, eyes, and cheeks. A version of puppy pose, allowing your heart to melt down towards the mat. And if it's easy, great. Let it be easy and simply breathe here, feeling that gentle tug of gravity. Option to stay here for the next 3 breaths, or you could extend the arms, bringing forehead down to the mat for a second version of puppy pose. Anahatana, heart-melting pose. And after those 3 breaths, wherever you're at, coming back up onto your hands. Shift the knees towards the outside edges of the mat and hips back towards the heels for a puppy pose. Reach your arms forward fully, elbows lifted off the mat. Breathe into the belly. Breathe into the waist. Breathe into the back. Walk your hands back towards your knees, coming to sit in hero's pose. Head and heart align over your hips, and as you take your next breath in, reach your arms overhead, lift up onto your shins. Exhale, release into tabletop. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, first downward facing dog. We'll take just a moment to pedal out through the heels, just find this first time coming into the pose. And then we're going to weave those last few postures together. So as you take your next breath in, come into tabletop, knees wider, exhale, child's pose. Inhale, come up onto the shins, lift up overhead with the arms. Exhale, tabletop, tuck the toes. Downward facing dog. Release the heels down. Breathing in, table. Child's pose. Exhale. Inhale, come up onto the shins, lift the arms overhead. Exhale, tabletop. Toes tucked, downward facing dog. Breathe in and press the thighs back, heels down, breathing out. Inhale, come forward to table. Exhale, child's pose. Get into your flow. Inhale up onto the shins, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, tabletop, tucked toes. Downward facing dog, breathe in. Press it back and down. Exhale, we're going to add on here, or change it up rather. On your next inhale, come forward to plank pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe in, plank. Exhale, down dog. One more time, breathe in, plank. Exhale, down dog. Anchor into the left foot, right leg lifts to the sky. Exhale, right toes drop back down. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, left toes down. First side again, make sure the neck is relaxed. Breathe in, right leg up. This time step through between the hands and lower the back knee, low crescent lunge. Anchor into the feet, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, release, hands to the mat. Tuck the toe, lift the knee, step back. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, step through. Lower the back knee, low crescent lunge. Breathe in, reach up. Exhale, release, step back, downward facing dog. First side again, breathe in, right leg up. Exhale, step through. Inhale, low crescent lunge. Exhale, release, step back. Inhale, left leg up. Step through, breathe out. Inhale, rising up. Maybe the gaze comes up. Exhale, breathing our hands down, step back. Okay, we're going to change that flow again. Inhale, right leg lifts. Exhale, step through. Left foot meets the right. Forward fold at the top of your mat. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Come all the way up. Exhale, Tadasana. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold it down. We're going to get that flow really strong with the breath. Inhale, flat back. Hands to the mat. Step right foot back, left foot back, plank. Hold here for a moment. Lower down onto the forearms. Either holding this low plank, or you could lower the knees and hips, come into a Sphinx pose. Breathe. Option to look over each shoulder. No rush, just moving with your breath, finding what feels good to you today. Pressing back up onto the hands through your plank pose. Shift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Take a moment. Find your stillness. Nice, deep, fluid breaths. Inhale, left leg lifts. Step through between the hands. Right foot meets the left. Forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Exhale, Tadasana. Breathe in, reach up. Exhale, fold it down. Flat back, inhale. Hands to the mat, left foot steps back, right foot steps back. Plank, hold, breathe. Lower down to forearm plank. Bump the right hip towards the right edge of the mat, getting into the core. Left hip to the left side of the mat, coming up and over. And just a couple more times each way, bumping hips to the right, up and over to the left. Once more. Come through the middle, lower the knees and hips, come into Sphinx pose. Breathe. Again, option to look over the shoulders, flowing through with your breath. Come through the middle, lifting back up, lifting those ribs, then the thighs, then pressing up to hands, plank, downward facing dog. Connect to your breath and find that stillness that lives deep within. You might close the eyes here, taking a little moment for yourself. Bend the knees, gaze forward, walk, step, or maybe float, hop to the front of your mat, forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Exhale, Tadasana. Inhale, arm sweep out and up. Exhale, fold it down. We're going to take some time in this forward fold and really open up the backs of the legs. So you can step your feet maybe a little bit wider apart, just to hips distance if they were close together. And you're going to step onto the base of the hand, onto the palms. Bending your knees, of course, as much as you need to be able to step onto the hands. Letting the crown of the head release. Let's take a few breaths here. It's a gentle movement with the breath, or rather subtle movement. As you inhale, you're going to pull up and away from the arms. It's sort of like you feel like your body's trying to like pull out of its skin, out of the back. And then as you exhale, just releasing back down into that fold, softening. The inhale pulling up from the arms, and exhale into that fold. Now, take the hands out from under you. We're going to do a second version of a fold here. Bend the knees a lot, bringing the belly close to the thighs, and wrap your arms around the thighs. Or maybe you would hold behind the calves. Imagine that your thighs and belly and chest are magnetized towards one another. And then from there, starting to slowly straighten the legs. They do not need to get perfectly straight, but we're just moving in that direction of straight. And it might feel a little scary, like you're falling forward. You might start to notice some other areas that are getting into this stretch, like some areas through the feet maybe, or maybe it's higher on the legs for you, maybe it's lower towards the calves or knees. So just kind of feeling where that's at, where there's tension. And then you can move in and out of this a little bit. So you could re-bend the knees, get the thighs close to the belly, and then start to straighten the legs again. Just finding that edge. And maybe one more time you do that, softening the knees and re-straighten the legs. Forehead or crown of the head moving towards the earth. Just do the best that you can, letting go along the way. And bend your knees a lot. Come all the way down to your seat. Walk the feet just a little bit in front of you, coming into a boat pose. You can start with hands on the knees and just sitting up tall. Maybe the shins start to lift, leaning back onto the sits bones, finding that balance point. Maybe the legs straighten. Maybe you can let go of the legs and hover the hands. If you really wanted to get into the core tonight, maybe you add in a few teasers, lowering down and lifting back up. And you follow your own flow, right? So if you've been here for a minute and you're like, all right, I need a little breather, come back, reset, go to where you need to, maybe give it one more attempt. One of my favorite teachers, her name's Kino McGregor. She does a really strong Ashtanga practice. And she always calls this a boat parade when we do multiple boats at once. I don't know, brings a little more fun to it. Okay, you're gonna release from that. You can cross your ankles, just sit up nice and tall. Hands can gently press into your knees. Let's take a quiet moment there. It's important to have this space in between poses to just notice the effects. All right, let's roll over the shins, coming back into table and eventually back into your plank. Good, nice and strong here. And lift the heels right over the toes. So if your heels were like really reaching back, just gonna shift forward so you're balancing on the toes. And then see if you can lift your right heel. Lower the right toes, lift the left heel. Again, lift the right heel, this time knee to elbow. Send it back, plank. Lift the left heel, knee to left elbow. Send it back, just one more time each way. Right heel lifts, knee to elbow. The theme this month, other side, the theme is possibility. So we're doing this because you can, just seeing what's possible. And then lift your hips, come into downward facing dog. And stretch it all out, let the head go. Lift your right leg to the sky. Step to the outside of your right hand. Lizard lunge. We're gonna keep it active today, so lifting up through that left thigh, dipping the right shoulder down and under the leg. All right, so you're coming from inside of the leg, around the back of the calf, and placing that hand either on top of the foot or around the ankle. Second option is to bring both hands on the foot or around the ankle. Now, heel is right over the back toes again. So if you started to kick back through that left heel, press into the toes, kind of sending some momentum forward. Release from this burning lunge, and we're going to pivot the back heel down and open up into warrior two. So strong in the legs, remember no rush. And outstretched through the fingertips. Extended side angle, elbow comes to the thigh, or right hand comes back down to the inside of the foot. Left arm overhead. If you're using blocks, it's a good place to use a block under the hand here. And we're going to play with our bind, so turning the hand, the top hand palm back, reach around the back and find the hip crease. Second option is to double bind, dropping the right shoulder down, just like we did in lizard. Reach under the leg and find the hands behind the back. Just do the best you can. I can tell you from experience watching other people try to do this and teaching, you're probably closer than you think you are. Do your best, you've got it. Just see what's possible. Even a second more is possible, maybe. Good, release that bind. We're gonna come back up into warrior two. You can straighten the legs. Whew. Maybe give a little tap, kind of like a pat on the back, but pat on the thigh. And we'll come into triangle pose. Nice deep breath in. Reach out, the quads are lifting up and tip it down. You might use that block under the bottom hand again. Option to bind around the back. This time we'll just stick with a half bind. Maybe the gaze is able to come up towards the ceiling, really opening that left shoulder and chest. Most importantly, connect back to your breath. Let it be your anchor and connect to that stillness within. Release your bind if you're in it. Rebend the knee, come up through centered, pivot the toes to the long edge of the mat. Goddess pose, heels in, both knees bend in the direction of the toes, arms into cactus. Press the hands back. Breathe into your belly. Remember those belly breaths from the beginning, just bringing all that attention back into the very center of the body. You can imagine drawing nourishment up through the legs as you breathe into this center. And this sort of energy or power that extends up through the body and out through the arms. You can imagine like you see like in superhero movies, right? They use their hands. It's like this energy that shoots out. You can imagine the same sort of like drawing in of energy, sending it out. Now let's lift all the way up, straighten the legs, reach up. Exhale, just let the arms come down and behind the back. Interlace the fingers, knuckles draw down, chest opens. Breathe. Forward fold, hinging from the hips. Arms like a lever, head releasing, arms coming overhead the best you can. A couple of things that you can tune into here. Again, the backs of the legs, finding that opening in the back body, but also here some attention in the shoulders and the neck. Release the hands down, hold onto the waist, elbows draw back, and then strong legs as you inhale, straight spine come up. Exhale here. And then turning back towards the front of the mat and just bringing your hands down, step back to downward facing dog. We're just going to go through one strong flow here, vinyasa flow. Inhale, come forward to plank. Exhale, the best chaturanga you've ever done. Slowly see if you can go halfway down and hold. Flip over the toes, press up through the arms, up dog. Exhale, lift the hips, down dog. And breathe, steady. Left side, lift the leg. Step to the outside of the hand, lizard lunge. You're finding your footing, maybe pressing into the toes, lift the heel right over the toes. Maybe you even walk those left toes a little further forward, right? Getting into a deeper splits between the legs. And then we'll dip that left shoulder down. So coming into a burning lunge, under the leg, around the outside of the ankle, hold on to the ankle or the foot. Other hand may be coming onto the ankle or foot also. Back heel over the toes. We're just going to find out what's possible this month. We're going to play with that theme of possibility. And yes, it's fine to take a break, right? You pop back in when you need to. It's fine to opt out and change, but it's also really good to challenge yourself at times, to really see where is that edge. Can I go further than I thought? Safely, consciously. Unbind, lizard lunge. Back heel pivots down. Open up into warrior two. Extended side angle, your version. Elbow on thigh, hand down. And then we'll play with the bind again. The top palm turns back, reach behind the back, see if you can find your hip crease. And this is fine, half bind is great, maybe just playing here. Maybe if it's possible for you today, you drop that left shoulder back down, reach around the leg. So you're reaching under and around, and then find the hands behind the back. You've got it, you're doing great. Just following along, just even watching this, you're doing great. Woo. Release, press it up, you've got it. We're almost done with this side. Straight legs. Little pat on the thigh, good job. Triangle pose. Reach it out, tip it down. You have a long waist on the bottom, right? So we're not fine. It's not that side bend. It's not like the side bend we did earlier. This is more of a fold from the hips. Maybe you play with that half bind here. Release from your bind. You're going to press all the way back up. Pivot the toes to the long edge of the mat. Goddess pose again. Let's not overcomplicate. Just hold the pose, same as before. Drawing out that energy. Straighten the legs, reach behind the back, same as before. Interlace the fingers, but maybe this time put the opposite thumb on top. Open chest. Folding. Breathing. The head is able to release with gravity. The neck is released. Release the hands coming to the waist or the hips. Draw the elbows back, engage the legs as you lift all the way up. This time we're just going to take a step to the front of the mat. Come into Tadasana. Take a moment. Just checking in after this flow, this challenge. Somewhere along in my personal practice, Tadasana has become a checkpoint not only on my mat, but throughout my day. Because we come into it so often and just becoming more conscious of assuming this posture throughout the day. And I've connected in my mind to this pose that it's a checkpoint for coming back into center, just really feeling that center line from the arches of the feet right up through the legs and the pelvis and the torso and the throat and the head. Now step your feet a little bit wider towards the edges of the mat. We're going to come into Malasana. Heels turn in just a little bit. You could use blocks under your seat if that is better. Or if the heels are not coming down to the mat, you can roll up a blanket and just slide that under your heels so you're more grounded. And we'll take a moment here, lifting up through the crown. You can find a meditative moment. Maybe it's not so comfortable here, and so there's a lot going on for you. This is where our practices can really differ in experience, right? What one person is experiencing could be totally different than the person next to you. And so you have this opportunity to honor your own practice. I'm going to come into a crow pose, a little arm balance today. We haven't done one of these in a while. I'll walk us through it, but if you know the pose and want to play with it, go for it. I'm going to give some options using a block. So you might choose to put a block behind you. This is what we're going to use to put the feet on to kind of play with that arm balance without actually having to float. The important part, the most important part that most people forget as they're learning this pose is to look forward. So let's go step by step here. You're going to plant your hands like stars and lift the hips high. You might walk your feet in a little bit and then bring your knees to your armpits. We've been doing a lot of hip opening today in our lizard and in our binds, in our deep folds. So you're just finding that position of knees into armpits, maybe even squeeze on the outer arms a bit. Now look forward, look beyond your hands towards the top edge of your mat and lean into the hands. Now this is great. This is a great starting point to just hold it here, kind of balancing on the toes. You're starting to shift the weight into the hands. You can come in and out of this as many times as you'd like, just kind of playing with that shift. Just keep looking forward, because as soon as you look down, all the energy tumbles down and then you're doing a somersault, which isn't necessarily bad, but not our intention. The next step here, if you're feeling confident today, want to play with that possibility, grip into your fingertips. See if you can lift one heel up or one toe up and step onto that block. Maybe both lift up onto the block. And now you're very, very close to that arm balance, but you can see what needs to engage to stay. And anytime you need a break through this process, it's good to just come back into malasana. So take that anytime you need. And then let's all meet back in malasana. So just come down to sit, whether you have a block under you or just comfortable resting here. We're just going to circle the wrists a little bit. You can move them around one direction and the other. And then flick the fingers off of the thumb, just getting out any stagnant energy. Flick all the fingers a few times. By the way, if you ever go, this is something we do in our energy medicine class, but I found when I went rock climbing, it was really helpful to refresh my hands if I did some of these like finger flicks, just kind of like clearing out any of that fatigue and stuckness. Okay, we're gonna come into forward fold. So you can just lift your hips all the way back up. You don't need the block anymore. You can move that out of the way. And we're gonna play with one more pose that we haven't done in a long time called Bird of Paradise. We've done a lot of prep for this pose, so you're in a good position to try it out. But just again, do the best you can. Okay, feet are a little bit wider. Step by step, right shoulder drops down, just like we did in our lizard lunge, and you're gonna go under the leg and find the hip crease. And then the left arm's gonna come up and around the back and see if you can find the bind right at that hip crease, right? You find your bind just like you were in your extended side angle. Now we're gonna shift all the weight to the left foot and bring those right toes closer into center. And imagine you have like a high heel or your heel's like resting up on a block or something. The important part here is to not pull with the arms. Use the strength of your left leg to stand up, holding the leg in that bind. Great attempt, it's great. And the first part's the bind, so if the bind isn't quite there, that's okay. Just do the best you can, right? Like if maybe I'm just kind of like, okay, I don't quite have my bind, but I can kind of assume this shape. You can still start to like lift up through that left side and just lift the knee, right? Just getting into the movement of it. Awesome, awesome. This is as far as we're gonna go. We're gonna lower back down and release. So you let go of that bind. You can come to your forward fold. Take a big burst of an exhale, letting it go. Remember, what can I learn from this? At this moment, maybe your biggest issue is this part of paradise or this bind. Letting it go. What can I learn from this? What does it have to teach me today? Okay, let's give it a go. Other side, you're gonna bend into the left knee. Dip the elbow down. I'm kind of exaggerating, but it helps to just get into that movement of it, and then reach under the leg and around. So when you get to this first part of the bind, your hand is open. You're kind of at that hip. And the other hand, right hand comes up, palm is turned back. Binding around, see if you can find those fingers or do the best you can. Start to shift the weight into the right foot. You're coming up onto the left toes, and then hop those left toes a little closer into center. So now you're balanced over your right leg because this is how you're gonna stand. Start to look forward. Imagine your energy starting to lift up. Remember, don't pull with the arms. Engage the right leg, lift it up. Excellent, great effort. And release, come back down. If you just fell out of the pose, that is totally normal. Let it go. I've been practicing it for a long time. It definitely takes just familiarity. You're probably a lot closer than you maybe give yourself credit for if that felt really challenging. I'm telling you, you're a lot closer than you realize. Okay, forward fold, shake it out, breathe it out. We're gonna lower all the way down to the seat. And then take the legs wide. So you might turn to the long edge of your mat if you're not already for a wide leg fold. You can sit up as tall as you can here. You might use your hands for support. Toes point up. Okay, let's take a fold, turning your torso towards the left side. Let's reach towards the left. Start slowing it down. Come up through the middle. Breathe your way through this. I mean, hopefully you're breathing your way through all of it, but let it go a little bit slower. Shift towards the other side. Just taking these pauses to breathe deeply and hopefully enjoy this stretching component. You might notice as you stay that you go a little deeper, slowly, slowly. I think this plays really well into this theme of possibility this month. You just don't know what's possible until you push that edge, till you allow yourself to challenge what you think you know. And I've found this come up many, many times on the mat. Come up through center. We're going to take a forward fold. There's a couple different ways you could do that. You might just lean forward into the hands. It might feel like you don't go very far. That's okay. If you feel like you could go a little further down, you might hold onto your big toes and use the arms to help come down. Wherever you're at. We're keeping the toes pointed up. Try not to let them internally rotate through the legs. And then press it back up. We're going to come into one more deep stretch called fish pose. If you have a bolster, use it, or maybe a blanket under you will also feel good. You're going to want to stay on the long edge of your mat so that you have a cushion under your knees. Even still, I know that sometimes the knees can feel a little sensitive here, so you might put like blankets under your knees. Anyways, we'll see how it goes, but just know that you can use your props to feel a little more comfortable. So we're going to bring those legs in and then come into sort of a hero's pose, but you'll keep your knees a little bit wider. The bolster will be right in front of you if you have it. If you don't, you'll use your arms to support you or a big pillow. And you're just going to start to lean forward and walk your knees out to the sides, like fish legs, right? So it's a deep inner hip opener, and the heels are in alignment with the knees. So sometimes people will want to keep the feet together like child's pose. Not wrong, but you're not going to get into that inner seam quite as much. So heels go out also. You're bringing the pelvis towards the mat and then starting to lower down the best that you can. This is currently what I would consider to be somewhat of an arch nemesis of a posture. Used to be pigeon pose after many years of soccer, but thankfully with about 6 years of yoga, that became comfortable, so anything is possible. But this is it. This is where we're at. We're going to hold here for a little while, just allowing the body to acclimate and hopefully start to release a little bit. You might close your eyes. Really breathing into the belly, into the waist, into the back. It's that 360-degree breath like we did in child's pose earlier. If you are starting to lie down on the ground or on a pillow, you might turn like a head towards the side. And after so long, maybe you turn the head the other way. And just a few more breaths here. And we'll start to slowly press up, and really, really slowly. Might feel kind of stiff coming up, totally normal. Walking those knees in slowly, slowly. And you can bring the legs out in front of you. And we're going to come right into Shavasana from here. So just letting the body rest. If you have that bolster, you might place it under the knees, or use a blanket underneath of your head, or cover yourself up. You can just let the body stretch out here. And enjoy the last few moments of your practice. Just allowing the energy to move, the breath, the blood, a little more freely at this point in your evening. Shavasana is the pose to let go. It is the end of a cycle where you carry forward the wisdom, the lessons learned, and you let go of the rest. If you find yourself distracted by a thought, a sound, or anything else, a sensation, be gentle with yourself. Allow the next breath to bring you back to that centeredness and stillness. Begin to invite some little movements into your body. Rubbing the thumbs along the tips of the fingers, moving the toes, the ankles. Maybe something different. Maybe the movement is the expression on your face. Curling the lips up into a little smile, crunching the cheeks or the eyes. Allowing your breath to connect to this movement. It might start to happen naturally as you get really rooted in this practice of connecting mind and body and breath. That you deepen the breath. Just feel it moving through you as you move the body. An option to take a big stretch, maybe start to bend the knees or whatever resting pose you're in, starting to come back into a cross-legged seat to conclude your practice tonight. And if you feel you need a little longer to rest or you want some longer time to rest here, even if it's a minute more or 5 minutes more, just give yourself that time to do so. And as you're ready, bringing your palms together, offering your gratitude in return. Thank you, body. Thank you, breath. Thank you, mind. Thank you, practice. Thank you, one another, for showing up. And anywhere else you want to extend that gratitude tonight. Namaste. Have a great evening. Thank you guys so much for joining and allowing me to guide you through this practice.